learners. Welcome to Eco Learner Support for WAEC and NECO candidates. Today, I will be taking you the subject biology, and we are looking at the topic which has the smallest definition in biology that's easy for everybody to understand. If you ask anybody, they will give you definition straight. Please follow me as we go along.
Eco Learners Support, a support program of the Lagos State Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education for WAEC and NECO candidates.
We are starting with the cell. This will be our objective for this lesson. We are looking at the end, every learner should be able to give a definition of the cell, whichever way is easier for him or her to define. Then should be able to describe in a simple term what a cell is. Then mention some of the organelles that we can find in a cell, and as well the function of each of these organelles. And at the end, should be able to state the major background theory that form the lesson we are going to be looking at. Let's continue. I have different definitions here of cell. You can pick from any one you like, but the most popular definition is that cell is the basic unit of life. But for WAEC and NECO, if you stop at cell is the basic unit of life, they give you 1 mark. You have to end it. That cell is the basic unit of life where every living organism arises. Without cell, there won't be any living organism. It's like you want to build a story building. Without a single block joining together, we will not have the building. So, cell is the basic unit of life where every living organism comes from. Cell is the structural and functional unit of life. All the basic structure we have in our body are formed as a result of 2 or more cells coming together. For our leg, of our organs to be formed, 1 or 2 organs must join together to form that part. Then, cell carry out all living activities for us to grow. It is the cell. For us to respire, to break down food and supply us with energy, it is the cell. As well as every other living function we have in our body. Now we look at the structure of the cell. Now I want every one of us to imagine we are holding an egg. A small egg that will cook, that everybody eats every day. A smaller egg represents a cell. If you look at the egg, it represents a cell. And this cell we are talking about was discovered by an English scientist named Robert Hooke. He discovered this cell while he was observing an oak tree under his microscope. While he observed this cell, he found that some parts are missing. So he called those parts that are missing that it must be the major part of the cell, but in that cell they are missing. So the father of cell is Robert Hooke. And if you are studying cell, you are studying cytology. You can go to university and study cell biology and genetics. You are still studying the cell. Then we said a cell consists of a living protoplasm or a living material that we call protoplasm. If you look at the egg, apart from the shell, the jelly-like thing that draws in the egg, or when we boil the egg, the part that turns white, and if you look at it, it also has a yolk. Those are the parts that make up the living part of the cell. And that is why I put it here that the protoplasm is made up of 2 parts, the nucleus and the cytoplasm. The nucleus and the cytoplasm make up the protoplasm of the cell. Now, in some textbooks, we are told that the protoplasm is made up of 3 parts: the cell membrane, the nucleus, and the protoplasm. Most people have argued that the cell membrane, or what we call the plasma membrane, is just a covering, is not part of the living material of the cell. That is why some exclude it, some include it. But for exam purpose, in case you are asked to mention 3 parts that make up the protoplasm. You mentioned the cell membrane or plasma membrane, the cytoplasm or the nucleus. But if you ask to mention two, please stay with cytoplasm and nucleus. I hope we are getting it. Let's move on. Now, the cytoplasm is the major part of the cell where every materials are found inside the cell. It is the part that draws, if you have an egg, the jelly part, or when you boil the egg, the part that turns white. That is the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is made up of the organelles and inclusion. Organelles are permanent structure. Inclusions are temporary structure. Those ones are the fat material that comes once in a while. They are not present in every cell. That is why they are temporary structure. He said the cell contains nucleus and organelles. Remember, I said Robert Hooke, while he was observing the cell, he found that some parts are moving, are absent in that cell. So those parts that are absent, part of it are nucleus or organelles. So some cell are made up, some cell have nucleus and every organelle present. Those cells are those ones we refer to as eukaryotic cell. Majority of the cells in our body, the red blood cell, the cheek cell, the onion cell, all these are part of eukaryotic cell. But some cells, they have the nucleus and some organelles missing. Those cells are the ones we call prokaryotic cell. Example is bacteria. Example is our white blood cell and the nerve cell, and so on and so forth. So now I'll move on to the permanent structure in the cell. The permanent structure in the cell are called organelles. And what are organelles? Organelles are small cellular structure that perform simple life activities in the cell. They perform the function of growth, they perform the function of respiration, they perform the function of digestion, they perform the function of excretion. All these simple structure that perform simple life activities are what we call organelles. In life, everything has smaller people that perform smaller job under it. It's not the president is not the one that is working. You have ministers. Under the minister, we have PAs that help the president or the minister to perform his duty. These are some of the things that the organelles we do in our body. And some of the organelles we have the mitochondrion, we have the nucleus, we have the cytoplasm, we have the lysosome, we have the Golgi body as well, and so forth. In our next class, we'll be looking at the organelles as well as their function. Now, let's look at some practice questions that will help us to understand what we have learned so far. The first one we have here is, what is a cell? The second one is, list the structure that make up the protoplasm of the cell. The third one is, differentiate between eukaryotic and prokaryotic cell. I'm giving you just 30 seconds to go through the question. I'll be back. Welcome back. I hope you really understand the question, because if you don't understand the question, you will not be able to answer the question very well. The first one says, what is a cell? I'm very sure majority of you have written, cell is the basic unit of life. Cell is the building block of life. Cell is the structural and functional unit of life. And remember when I started, I said you must end it with where all life comes from. So a proper definition is, cell is the basic unit of life where all life comes from. If you want to use biological term, you can now say cell is the basic unit of life where all life evolves. Life evolving is the same thing as give rise to or comes from. The next one is, list the structure that make up the protoplasm of the cell. List the structure. If you are not given number, mention the cytoplasm and the nucleus. But if you are given three, that should list three structures that make up the protoplasm. Mention the cell membrane, the nucleus, and the cytoplasm. But if it is two, mention the nucleus and the cytoplasm. The next one is differentiate between eukaryotic cell and prokaryotic cell. Differentiate between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell. Differentiation means write a small sentence for each of them. Eukaryotic cells are cells in which nucleus and organelles are present, while prokaryotic cells are cells in which nucleus and organelles are absent. That is straightforward definition. Thank you. God bless.
Acing your WAEC and NECO examinations has been made easy by the Lagos State Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education with the ECO Learner Support for WAEC and NECO Candidates television program. Join seasoned teachers as they take you through these core subjects: mathematics, English language, physics, chemistry, and biology, targeting the exact syllabus of WAEC and NECO. Watch ECO Learner Support for WAEC and NECO candidates on this station. Learners can also connect with ECO Learner Support for WAEC and NECO candidates through these social media platforms to access more educational content and give their feedback. ECO Learner Support for WAEC and NECO candidates. Pass your examinations with flying colors.
Good day, learners. Welcome to ECO Learner Support for NECO and WAEC candidates. Today, we are looking at a topic in biology, cell organelles. Let's go as we move along.
ECO Learners Support, a support program of the Lagos State Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education for WAEC and NECO candidates.
Today, our lesson objective include that every learner at the end of this lesson should be able to mention at least 5 or 6 organelles as well as their function, and should be able to state the cell theory and some of the scientists that contribute to the development of the cell theory. Let's move on. Now, what is an organelle? Organelles are small cellular structures that are capable of performing simple life activity like respiration, growth, digestion, excretion, reproduction, basically all life activities that multicellular organisms also perform, but they can do it in a very simple way. Example of organelles that are found in cell are mitochondria, vacuole, cell membrane, smooth endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi body, rough endoplasmic reticulum, ribosome, cytoplasm, lysosome. Then we also have chloroplast and cell wall. The chloroplast and cell wall are basically found in plant cell alone. They are not present in animal cell. While the lysosome is only found in animal cell and is not found in plant cell. Now, I continue with the description of each of these organelles. A cell membrane. A cell membrane is like an envelope that protects the cell. Its own function is to regulate what enters and leaves the cell. That is why it is also referred to as a semi-permeable membrane, because it selects what enters and leaves the cell. The next one is the cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is a jelly-like structure, and it is referred to as the environment of the cell. It is the environment of the cell because all organelles are found inside it. All nutrients are dissolved in it. Exchange of material in a cell occurs inside the cytoplasm. The next one is the nucleus. The nucleus is the control center of the cell. Like we have the president in Nigeria that control all activity. The nucleus controls all activity of the cell. It is the control center. It initiates cell division. It controls the reproduction of the cell. So every other activity that occurs inside the cell are controlled by the nucleus. The next one is the mitochondria or mitochondrion. When we are talking singular, it's mitochondrion. If you are talking about it in a plural form, we say it is what? Mitochondria. Mitochondria is regarded as the powerhouse of the cell. It is regarded as the power of the cell because it is involved in the production of energy. Anything that produces energy is regarded as the powerhouse. That's one of the reasons why the Niger Delta in Nigeria is the powerhouse of Nigeria, because all our energy, all our oil are coming from there. So the mitochondria is the power center of the cell. The next one is the ribosome. For cell to produce protein, ribosome is the specialist in the production of protein. Protein is needed for the growth and replacement of worn-out tissue of the cell. After the production of ribosome, it needs to be transported. That is why I move to the next organelle, endoplasmic reticulum. We have two types of endoplasmic reticulum. We have the rough and we have the smooth. The rough endoplasmic reticulum is involved in the transportation of protein that is produced by the ribosome, while the smooth is involved in transportation of fats and oil. The next one is the Golgi body. Golgi body is work closely with endoplasmic reticulum because it is involved in packaging and temporary storage or transportation of material within the cell. The next one is lysosome. Remember, I said the lysosome is only found in animal cell. Reason because animal cells are the only one that digest food. Plants do not digest food. So the lysosome helps in the breakdown of food, or what we refer simply as digestion. The next one is vacuole. Vacuole is a cavity within the cell. It is found both in plant and animal cell. But as the animal cell grows or increases in size, the vacuoles disappear. So at a point in time of animal cell, you find the vacuole. But in animal cell, it's a large cavity that is involved in storage of material. The next one is chloroplast. Chloroplast is another important organ, especially for the plant cell. It's only found in plant cell. It is the chloroplast that produces the chlorophyll. Without the chlorophyll, we will not have food. So it is the chloroplast that produces chlorophyll. The chloroplast is the site of manufacture of food for plants. So it's one of the major organelles or structure that every plant must have. Any organism that possesses chloroplast is a plant. One of the reasons why fungi and bacteria were removed from the plant kingdom because they lack chloroplast. The next one is the cell wall. The cell wall is also like a cage, but it's only found in plant cell because plant does not move. They need something to regulate their cell membrane. So with the cell wall is also a regulator. It guides the plant cell from bursting. If during turgidity, enough water enter into the cell, instead of bursting, the cell wall protects the cell membrane from getting busted. Now we continue with the cell. Cell wall is made up of cellulose. Cellulose is a large carbohydrate that is only found in plants. The animal type of cellulose is the glycogen. That is the animals that is closely related to the cellulose in plants. Then the next topic we are looking at is the cell theory. As we know, everything that is theory means it's been disapproved at a point in time. That means it's not all 100% true, but it's a guide to everything scientists do. So the cell theory is one of the work done by two German scientists, One of them is a zoologist, the other one is a botanist. The two of them, while working together, produce or start the postulation of cell theory. Their names are Matthias Sheldon and Theodore Schwann. We have a lot of contributors to cell theory. We will not fail to mention the father of cell, that is Robert Hooke. It is from his discovery that we know that every compartment of living things contains similar units, which is called cell. The next one is Theodore Schwann. Like I said, he's a zoologist. He observed the parts of an animal, and he found out that each of these parts of animal contain similar units, which he said they are made up of one or more cells. The next person is Rudolf Virchow. He's one, in his own theory, he said new organisms evolve from pre-existing. That means for new organism to grow, it is the old one that gives rise to new organism, like we come from our parents. Our parents are coming from our grandparents. That is, new cell come from pre-existing cell. Now, I have a lot of practice questions for you. I give you few seconds to go through the past question and see which one you can solve very well. Now, the first question says, name 3 scientists that are associated with the discovery of cell. The next one, make a diagram 6 to 8 centimeters long of plant cell and label the organelle responsible for reproduction. Please understand the question before you answer. You are not asked to label everything, but organ responsible for reproduction. It said, name one blood cell in human that doesn't have the organelle that is mentioned above. The next one is, what is the biological implication of the name organelle? The next one is, list 6 organelles found in plant cell. Now, I'll go over the solutions to the question. Some of the solutions to the question, contributors to the cell theory. We have Robert Hooke, Matthias Sheldon, Theodore Schwann, Rudolf Virchow, and Felix Dujardin. Please note, spelling in biology is very, very important. If any of this is missing, the candidate will be marked wrong. There is a particular year this question was set in WAEC. A lot of students miss this because of spelling error. Though they are able to mention, but because of spelling error. So you be careful, make sure you know the spellings very well. The next question is, draw a plant cell. Draw a plant cell and label only the parts for reproduction. Now, in the drawing, they gave us size 6 to 8 centimeters. You are supposed to measure before you start drawing. Make sure that your diagram is not less than 6 and is no more than 8 centimeters. All labelings must be ruled with ruler. If you have more than one labelings, everything must be done with your ruler on a straight line. Because this one, we are asked to label only the parts involved in reproduction. That's why we have only one labels here. If you remember earlier, I showed you a picture of plant and animal cell, where we have a lot of organelles labeled. But this, we are only labeling one part. And note, if you are asked to draw the plant cell, if you draw the animal cell, you'll be marked wrong. So make sure you can identify which one is plant cell from the animal cell. The next one is to name one blood cell in which the organelle is missing. And the blood cell is our red blood cell. Red blood cell or erythrocyte. Please don't write RBC. Say name. We don't want abbreviation. we want full name, red blood cell or erythrocyte. The next one is, what is the biological implication of the name cell? That means if that part, the nucleus, is missing from that cell, what will happen to the cell? Number one, the cell will not be able to reproduce because the nucleus initiates the production in the cell. That means the cell will also have a short lifespan. That is why the red blood cell have a short lifespan. Then it gives room for carriage of more oxygen. Because it's missing, it allows red blood cell to carry oxygen. Because one of the major functions of red blood cell is to carry oxygen to every part of the body. The last question says we should list 6 organelles found in plant cell. I have the nucleus, I have the chloroplast, I have rough endoplasmic reticulum. This is supposed to be smooth endoplasmic reticulum, vacuole, lysosome, ribosome, Golgi body, and finally mitochondrion. Remember, mitochondrion is singular, mitochondria is plural. I hope you understand the brief explanation on the question we are able to practice.
Organelles Support, a support program of the Lagos State Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education for WAEC and NECO candidates.
For comments, questions, and feedback, please contact us on the social handles that will be displayed on the screen. Thank you.
Thank you.